So here's the statement, and I give it now because we're going to give some of the names of these Persian kings and Median kings. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, there are 40 kings mentioned, not including the 20 in Israel and the 19 plus queen in Judah. There are 40 other kings mentioned in your Old Testament, 40. The odds against them being mentioned by coincidence in chronological order, in their proper geographical setting, spelled correctly, in other words, all these historical details correct, by coincidence, would be the same as 1, I get this, 1 in this big number. Here's how we illustrate the big number. And if you can imagine 35,000 planets with the same number of ants on each planet as there are ants on Earth, 35,000 times the number of ants on Earth. That's the odds against the biblical writers over a period of, well, from the first kings mentioned, which are ancient Near East kings, all the way down through the Persians. And there are 40 of them. Getting them in order, in the right chronology, in the right geographical setting, spelling them right, getting all these details right, would be 1 in that number. Now think about that. Then somebody comes along and says, well, how do you know the Bible's true? Well, let's do a little study. You can figure it out. Now, having said that, we're going to look at some of these Persian kings. Here are some references to the Persian kings. And you don't need to write all these down, but if you'll just write down Persian kings are mentioned, and you can find them on your internet in 5 seconds. But Ezra 9:9 talks about the kings of Persia. Ezra 6:14 mentions 3 of them. Daniel 8:20 and Daniel 10:13. Of course, the book of Esther. And Daniel 5:28 is a prophecy. I told you that some of this stuff would be prophetic. And Daniel 5:28 says that Belshazzar's kingdom will be given to the Medes and the Persians, and that very night. It's precisely what happened. So, in the intertestamental period, as we go from Malachi to Matthew, as the Old Testament ends, these people are in charge. And you know that from Daniel chapter 5 again. Let's talk about some specific people. Would you write down, please, just these references? Isaiah 44:28, Isaiah 44:28, and Isaiah 45:1. Isaiah 44:28 and Isaiah 45:1. In those references, you will hear Cyrus II. We mentioned this a few hours ago. Is called my shepherd by God. He's also called the Lord's anointed. Interesting. And God is saying to his people through the prophet Isaiah, I'm going to send a deliverer. You're going to get to go free. You're going to the captivity. You're going to be there, but you're going to get to go free. And this is 150 years before Cyrus was even born. So during the intertestamental period, the Jews are under the control of the Persians and the Medes. And one of the kings that they interact with is Cyrus II. Now Persia, those people come from the hills of Russia. They were known as Indo-Aryans. And by the way, in my lifetime, the word Persia's gone out of existence. What country is now called, well, it was called Persia, what are they called now? Iran. Yeah, Iran, that's right. And by the way, Burma, we don't talk about Burma, what are we talking about now? Myanmar. And the old island of Ceylon, what's it called now? Sri Lanka. So sometimes countries change their names. So when you think about that part of the world that's in the news virtually every day, well, here we are. Well, let's talk now just for a minute about MiDA. Looks like the word media. So we have the Medes and the Persians, and they were the 2 arms on Nebuchadnezzar's statue. Well, we have Persians, and we have the Medes. If you think of Iran and Iraq, you're not far off geographically as far as where these people come from, Medes. Ancient country, Asia, of course, east of Assyria. It's now parts of Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. If you want to know some of the name, another name of a king, we've got Cyrus II. Tiglath-Pileser, the Assyrian king, invaded Media and added part of that to the Assyrian Empire. By the way, the Medes are mentioned in Ezra. The Medes are mentioned in Ezra. And now and then in the Bible, we read about the laws of the Medes. I love this part about the Medes. In Acts 2, chapter 9, the Medes are mentioned. Acts 2:9. The Medes were defeated by the Assyrians, but then the Medes joined forces with Babylon. This is 710 BC. And overthrew the Assyrians. And that's a very important date in history. And 612, do you remember look, Jonah, let me write this down before I forget. Jonah preaches to the Assyrians in Nineveh, and what did they do? They repented. About 150 years later, God sent another prophet to the Assyrians. His name was Nahum. He may have given his name to the city of Capernaum. That's one theory. And what did Nahum say was going to happen to the Assyrians? Because they went back to their old ways. And he said they're going to get it. And in 612 BC, they did get it. And the Assyrians were destroyed by a coalition of the Babylonians and the Medes. Well, when did they reach the time of their greatest power? This would be about the time of Jeremiah, during the era of Nebuchadnezzar. Now, the one we want to pay attention to here, and just for a minute, is this guy right here. This is Cyrus II. Cyrus II. He is considered to be the founder of this Persian Empire. One author, I wrote this down, one author I read said that Cyrus' rule was a result of the sovereignty of God. He was humane and benevolent toward those he defeated, and this is the Persian king, Cyrus II, who issued a decree and told the Jews, you can go home. Let me give you the scripture references. 2 Chronicles 36, 22 and 23. 2 Chronicles 36, 22 and 23. And then Ezra, the first 4 verses of Ezra. Ezra 1, 1 to 4. So we go back, way back to Isaiah, who said, Cyrus. And 150 years later, give or take, Cyrus is born and then allows the Jews to go back home. It really is pretty amazing. Cyrus is the guy who came up with the Suzerain-Vassal idea. And what that means is this. He's the founder of a system where you had little kings answering to big kings. If you ever read this in a Bible commentary, Cyrus II was a genius when it came to organization. The suzerain is the big king, and the vassal king is the little king. And so Cyrus, you saw the size of that empire. Cyrus would say to these little kings, you can maintain your kingdom. You can maintain your identity. And I'll be kind and benevolent and take care of you. But you owe me loyalty. Now, so what do I care about that? Because some of the covenants we read in the Bible, some of the covenants that God makes with us, follow a pattern of the Suzerain-Vassal, where God says, I'm the great king, I'm the big king, I'll give you freedom, give you free will, allow you to live your life, but you owe allegiance to me. Now if you do this, I'll do this, and the blessings, but if you do this, I'll do this. Isn't that interesting? And Cyrus came up with this idea, which I don't know if he's the first guy in history to come up with it, but it's a great idea to tell people, I'll let you have a modicum of freedom, but you owe me the allegiance. This guy developed roads, cities, a postal system, and legal codes. Now again, I want you to think, Think of the turmoil the Jews have been through. They've been through the Babylonian captivity. They get to go back home. Boy, you'd have really thought that they would have straightened up and been grateful. Well, such was not necessarily the case, but Cyrus II. The Bible refers to Cyrus in very favorable terms. I've given you those verses. Let's get another name down. Cambyses II, Cambyses. This is Cyrus' son. Now, since these people are in between the testaments, we want to know a little bit about them and what they did. So Cyrus' son, Cambyses II.